Cain, shalom, giving honor and praise unto Yah, the creator of heaven and earth. This is part 4 concerning the issue of the tribe of Dan. Now, wanted to just go over something real quick. If you remember from the other parts, we went over the term from Dan to Beersheba. And this is very important in this case because of this. If we look, we see Dan, the northern part of the land. Naphtali and Kadesh, as we went over before. Then you go all the way down. You see here Beersheba. So looking at it from this point of view, you got Beersheba there, Dan all the way up here. So it's talking from the north to the southern part of the land of Israel. This is very important in what we're going to be presenting, all right, in this particular part right here. Now, let's go. We are in the book of Amos, chapter 8, verse 14. Let's understand. Amos was a prophet that lived a little bit before the time of Isaiah. And he spoke mostly, to the northern kingdom of Israel. Not only to them, but mostly to them. And we are in Amos 8:14, which is used by several people to try to state that the tribe of Dan is destroyed. It says, "They that swear by the sin of Samaria and say, Thy God, O Dan, lives, and the manner of Beersheba lives, even they shall fall and never rise up again." Brothers and sisters, this is not saying that the tribe of Dan will fall and not rise up again. Let's now show this scripturally. Let's go back to Joshua 19. 19 verse 47. It says, "And the coast of the children of Dan went out to looter for them. Therefore the children of Dan went up to fight against Leshem, and took it, and smote it with the edge of the sword, and possessed it, and dwelt therein, and called Leshem Dan, after Dan their father." So that right there is very important to be noted and understood. Let's go now to Joshua chapter 19, verse 2. And it says this. Joshua chapter 19, we are in verse 2. And it says, matter of fact, let's start in verse 1. 19:1. "And the second lot came forth to Simeon, even for the tribe of the children of Shimon, according to their families, and their inheritance was within the inheritance of the children of Judah. And they had in their inheritance Beersheba, or Sheba, and Molada, and Hazar Shaul, and Bala, and Azem." Now the point I wanted to go into that part right there, because it distinctly shows that Beersheba was within the land of the tribe of Simeon. All right. So when you read the term in the scriptures, like in Chronicles, when it says from Dan to Beersheba, it is speaking in reference from the northern part of the land to the southern part of the land. All right. Now, let's go to the book of 1 Kings, chapter 16, verse 24. 1 Kings 16 and 24, and it says the following. "And he brought the hill of Samaria of Shemer for 2 talents of silver, and built on the hill, and called the name of the city which he built after the name of Shemer, owner of the hill, Samaria." Samaria in Hebrew is said as Shombron, which means watchtower. "But Omri wrought evil in the eyes of Yah, and did worse than all that were before him." So this right here just goes to show, this is talking about Omri, the king of Israel. And what he did, he was the one who acquired the land that we call Samaria. All right. Now, the point in going over that is because in Amos chapter 8, verse 14, one more time, we're going to read it for edification purposes. It distinctly says in Amos 8:14, it mentions them same names that we read, right? Okay. they that swear by the sin of Samaria, and say, Thy God, O Dan, lives, and the manner of Beersheba lives, even they shall fall and never rise up again. So in order to understand this verse here, we have to first go over the fact that Dan, Samaria, and Beersheba was speaking about land, Land. And then we have to then understand what is the sin of Samaria, what is this God of Dan, and what is the manner of Beersheba. So now we can use the scriptural references one more time for that. So let's start from the back up. Let's start from some Beersheba. Let's go to 1 Samuel chapter 8 and verse 1. 1 Shemuel, or 1 Samuel chapter 8. We're going to start in the very first verse. And it came to pass when Samuel was old, that he made his sons judges over Israel. Now the name of his firstborn was Joel, and the name of his second Abiah. They were judges in Beersheba. And his sons walked not in his ways, but turned aside after wickedness, and took bribes and perverted judgment. So that's the manner of Beersheba. It says they took bribes, perverted judgment, and walked after wickedness. They did not walk after the righteous ways like their father Shemuel or Samuel did. So when it says the manner of Beersheba, it was speaking about their wickedness and their perversion of judgment. Similar to this society that we kind of in now, huh? All right, now, even though it's a different people, they're not the children of Israel in this society making the judgments. But we're going to now go into the book of First Kings chapter 16. Again, First Kings 16. We're going to start in verse 30. So that way we can gain some understanding. First Kings 16, verse 30. Because in order to understand this issue about Dan, these things have to be gone over. Okay? Now, it says this. And Ahab, the son of Omri, did evil in the sight of the Most High, above all that were before him. And it came to pass, as it had been a light thing for him to walk in the sins of Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, that he took to wife Jezebel, the daughter of Ethbaal, king of the Zidonians, and went and served Baal and worshipped him. And he reared up an altar for Baal and the house of Baal, which he had built in Samaria. And Ahab made a grove, and Ahab did more to provoke the Most High God of Israel to anger than all the kings that were before him. So this right here is talking about when you go to 1 Kings 16 here, when it says about the sin of Samaria, it is talking about them dealing in idolatry. So Beersheba, the manner in Beersheba, you got people dealing with perverted judgment. In Samaria, you got people dealing with idols. And then now let's go, if we will, to 1 Kings 12, verse 28. We are in 1 Kings chapter 12, verse 28. And it reads as follows. Whereupon the king took counsel and made 2 calves of gold and said unto them, It is too much for you to go up to Jerusalem. Behold, thy gods, O Israel, which brought you out of the land of Mizraim. And he set the one in Beit El, and the other he put in Dan. Now remember, Dan in this case, like Beersheba, like Samaria, is talking about a land, Land. And he set one in Beit El, and the other he put in Dan. And this thing became a sin, for the people went to worship before the one, even unto Dan. So when it's talking about that, it's talking about the people went to worship the idol. That in this case, this is talking about Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, who was a servant of Solomon. And this is talking about the idolatry that they sat there and that they dealt with. So when it says they that swear by the sin of Samaria, the idol that Ahab made, and say, as thy God, O Dan, lives, they're talking about not the Most High God, but it's talking about that idol that Jeroboam put in Dan and said this was your God, that he put in the land of Dan, when you read in 1 Kings chapter 12, which we just did. And the man of Beersheba, speaking about the perverted judgment, even they shall fall and never rise up again. That is what it's talking about in reference about the book of Amos. So now, I hope that is clarified and understood for the people for edification purposes. All right? Shalom for part 2.